Virginia Giuffre, one of the most prominent accusers of convicted sex offender and trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, has died. Giuffre was also an accuser of Prince Andrew. She said that he sexually exploited her as a teenager.
Prince Andrew has suddenly left the country, and it's not just for a vacation. Something serious is happening. A new arrest warrant is moving quickly, and now he's on the run. People are asking why a royal, someone from the Queen's own family, would leave like this, so fast, and without saying a word. There are questions everywhere. Why did he go now? What is he trying to avoid? For a long time, he stayed quiet while trouble grew around him. But now, it seems like things are getting worse. The law is catching up, and instead of staying to face it, he chose to disappear. This is not just another royal story. It's about someone once protected by power, now trying to stay one step ahead of it. The story is unfolding quickly, and what's coming next could change everything. Background context, setting the stage. Let's rewind a bit. Prince Andrew, Queen Elizabeth's second son, has been tied to one of the most high-profile scandals in recent history, the Jeffrey Epstein case. It started out as whispers, a few photos, some meetings, a questionable friendship, but then it exploded. Andrew was known to be close with both Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, the woman convicted for helping Epstein traffic underage girls. People began asking, why was a royal hanging around a man already convicted of sex crimes? It didn't help when photos surfaced of Andrew walking in Central Park with Epstein in 2010, after Epstein had already served time. Even worse, a now famous photo of Prince Andrew with Virginia Giuffre, a then teenage girl, his arm around her waist. Maxwell stands in the background. Virginia Giuffre later accused Andrew of sexually abusing her when she was just 17, and said Epstein had trafficked her to him. Andrew denied the claims, famously telling the BBC he had no recollection of ever meeting her, but public trust was already shaken. Then came the lawsuit. In 2021, Giuffre sued Andrew in a US court. Rather than fight it all the way, he settled, reportedly paying millions of dollars. Though he admitted no guilt, the court of public opinion had made up its mind. After that, the royal family cut him loose. The Queen stripped him of his military titles. He stopped using the title, His Royal Highness. He disappeared from public life. But the story didn't disappear. So why does this matter now? It's not just a scandal about one royal. It's about justice. It's about power, privilege, and whether the rules apply to everyone, even to those with crowns on their heads. Many people still believe the full truth hasn't come out. And with the recent developments, the story is getting even more serious. New developments, the arrest warrant. Here's where things take a major turn. In April 2025, shocking news broke. Virginia Giuffre had reportedly taken her own life. The woman who brought her abuse story into the spotlight was suddenly gone. Her death rocked the public, and it sparked outrage. People demanded accountability. Was enough ever done? Did she get the justice she deserved? Then, rumors began to swirl. New evidence had surfaced. Allegedly, previously hidden testimonies or communications between Maxwell, Epstein, and Andrew had come to light. It's said this new material gave weight to the idea that Prince Andrew's role may have been larger than what we thought, and that's when legal systems kicked into gear. Multiple media outlets reported that a US judge had approved the acceleration of a potential arrest warrant. Legal insiders hinted that due to the nature of the new evidence and public pressure, things were moving much faster than before. What does that mean? It could mean an international arrest warrant, a serious legal tool that allows one country to ask another to arrest and hand over someone for prosecution. That's no longer tabloid gossip. That's real legal action. Here's where things get tricky. Prince Andrew isn't a working royal anymore. He lost most of his titles, but he's still a prince. Could he be arrested? Legal experts say yes, in theory. No one is above the law, even royalty. The UK does have extradition agreements with the US, and unless there's political interference or a compelling legal reason, he could be handed over for questioning or trial. However, the idea of a British royal being extradited by the United States is, well, unprecedented. Still, the pressure is building, and it looks like Andrew knows it. In the middle of all this, reports emerged. Prince Andrew had left the country. Flight trackers picked up a private jet, leaving a UK airport late at night. Sources claim it was heading toward a Middle Eastern nation, one with no extradition treaty with the UK or US. Some say he's in Dubai. Others suggest a private estate somewhere in the Caribbean. The palace? Silent. No official word on where Andrew went or why. No explanations. No confirmation. Just quiet. So what's going on? Is this just a vacation? A coincidence? Or is it a calculated move, fleeing before the law comes knocking? Some news outlets, citing unnamed insiders, say the trip was planned weeks in advance. Others say it was rushed and made in direct response to the arrest warrant rumors. Some royal defenders insist he's cooperating with authorities and just needs a break from the media frenzy. But to most people watching, the optics are bad. When a man accused of serious crimes leaves the country just as legal pressure is mounting, it doesn't look good. What about the royal family? So how has the royal family reacted? Well, they haven't. Buckingham Palace has made no official comment. King Charles hasn't spoken on the issue. There have been no public appearances involving Andrew, no messages of support, no signs of condemnation either, just silence. That silence speaks volumes. Inside sources suggest that Charles has privately distanced himself. He knows that the monarchy's image is everything. And another scandal, especially one involving the same themes, abuse, cover-ups, and privilege, could be catastrophic. Some reports say William, the Prince of Wales, wants Andrew to face whatever comes next without help from the institution. He believes the monarchy must evolve, and that means accountability, even for family. This isn't the first time the royals have faced scandal. Edward VIII abdicated the throne for love, a decision that shocked the empire. Princess Diana spoke openly about cheating and being cheated on. Prince Harry left royal life amid claims of racism and mistreatment. But Andrew's case is different. This isn't about love or family feuds. This is about serious criminal allegations, ones tied to one of the darkest networks in recent history. And that makes it far more explosive. Legal next steps. What happens now? So what happens next? If an arrest warrant is indeed issued and confirmed, the country Andrew is currently in could be asked to detain and extradite him. If he's in a country with no treaty, he might try to stay there, effectively becoming a fugitive. But pressure will build. Governments may face backlash for protecting him. Activists and lawyers will push for international cooperation. Media outlets will keep digging. And as more attention returns to Epstein's network, there may be further revelations and more names exposed. If Andrew returns to the UK, authorities could be forced to open an official investigation. Parliament could face pressure to act, and the courts might finally get involved publicly in a way they haven't before. Some believe Andrew's legal team will try to delay proceedings through appeals, claims of ill health, or other tactics. But this time, things feel different. The public is watching, and they want answers. This story isn't just about one man. It's about how powerful people are treated when they're accused of crimes. It's about survivors being heard and taken seriously. And it's about whether justice can ever truly be blind. Prince Andrew may be hiding. He may be hoping this storm will pass. But with the world watching more closely than ever, it's clear this storm is just getting started. The story of Prince Andrew is far from over. As more details come out and the search continues, the world is watching closely. What happens next could shake the royal family like never before.
I used to make shortbread at Balmoral Castle for Princess Diana, so the little shortbread cookies there.
For decades, one man held the monarchy's darkest secret. At 63, royal chef Darren McGrady finally breaks his silence about what he witnessed between Diana and the woman who would become queen. What he reveals about Camilla's treatment of Diana's memory is more shocking than anyone imagined. From private confessions in palace kitchens to the systematic erasure of Diana's presence, McGrady's truth exposes how power rewrites history. Warning: what you're about to hear will forever change how you view the crown. Trust in the kitchen. Buckingham Palace housed 20 chefs in 1982. Darren McGrady was the least important among them. Yet by 1997, he'd become Diana's closest confidant, a relationship that defied every royal precedent. Their connection began with simple gestures. While others maintained rigid protocol, Diana wandered the palace kitchens barefoot. She requested orange juice while staff prepared elaborate state dinners. She thanked everyone personally, turning hierarchy into humanity. She always said thank you. Sometimes she'd even help stack plates. The first real breakthrough came during summer at Balmoral. McGrady prepared apple pies under the watchful eye of the head pastry chef when Diana appeared silently behind them. His face betrayed him. Shock, awe, complete paralysis. He remembers managing only hello and goodbye before turning scarlet. Diana's nightly ritual became legendary. Carrot, celery, apple juice to unwind after grueling days. She'd request yogurt and fruit snacks for herself and the boys. These weren't formal demands through intermediaries. Diana walked directly into kitchens, stating preferences conversationally. The intimate moments revealed her true character. McGrady discovered Diana's philosophy during one of their late-night conversations. "Darren, you take care of all the fats, I'll take care of the carbs at the gym." His cooking transformed overnight. No more heavy creams, no rich sauces. Diana's health journey required his adaptation. Princess Diana didn't eat beef at all. Occasionally, she'd have lamb if she was entertaining. The kitchen became their sanctuary. When Diana lunched alone, she'd join McGrady at the work table, watching him cook. Sometimes arriving early because hunger couldn't wait for schedules. I remember she'd say, "Darren, I need a coffee." "Oh, I'll make it. You're busy. Would you like one?" There was Princess Diana making me a coffee. But beneath this warmth, shadows gathered. McGrady noticed changes in Diana's appetite that reflected deeper issues. The light-hearted woman who once raided kitchen fridges began picking at her food. Something wasn't right in paradise. Shadows in the palace. Arguments echoed through Buckingham's corridors with frightening regularity by the early 1990s. McGrady couldn't escape the tension as Diana's marriage crumbled publicly. When I was cooking for the princess, we'd cook sometimes for the princess on her own. Sometimes the boys would be eating separate, and then we'd have the staff to cook for as well. This separation told its own story. Royal marriage meant shared meals. Diana's solitary dining suggested deeper fractures. Charles attended official functions alone increasingly. Diana found herself orbiting the edges of her own marriage. The infamous affair cast its shadow everywhere. McGrady witnessed Charles's priorities shifting, state business taking precedence over family time. Diana's legendary warmth couldn't compete with the pull of a decades-old relationship resumed. The princess never stuck to the menu book. "Princess Diana, no way. I'm not in the mood for this today. I don't want this. Can I have liver and onions? Can I have stuffed bell pepper?" This impulsiveness revealed anxiety beneath the surface. Unlike the Queen's rigid adherence to schedules, Diana's food choices reflected emotional states. McGrady learned to read her moods through meal requests, comfort foods when struggling, lighter fare when determined to maintain control. The Camille scandal erupted in 1992. Explicit recordings between Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles confirmed what palace whispers had suggested. Diana was competing for her husband's attention against a decades-long affair. There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded. These weren't just words for television interviews. The bulimia rumors proved devastatingly true. McGrady prepared meals knowing they might remain untouched. Diana struggled privately while maintaining public composure, attending state functions by day, battling eating disorders by night. Loud arguments between Charles and Diana became palace fixtures. McGrady often heard tension reverberating through walls, especially when Camilla's name arose. Questions haunted him. Why was this woman causing such pain? What hold did she maintain over Charles after his marriage? Diana's 1992 separation from Charles became official. McGrady watched as she left Buckingham Palace, moving to Kensington, with William and Harry. For him, an era ended, until the phone rang with an unexpected request. Diana wanted him as her personal chef. He accepted immediately. Kensington life proved vastly different, more relaxed, more personal, more human. Yet the shadow of Camilla lingered. Palace insiders whispered that Camilla celebrated the separation, allegedly telling friends, "He is officially mine now. He always has been." During late-night kitchen conversations at Kensington, vulnerability emerged more frequently. Diana needed listeners, not advice. McGrady provided silent support as she processed her changing world. Then came that kitchen confession he'd never forget. Still in her evening gown after a charity event, Diana lingered while McGrady cleaned dinner plates. "I've always known I will never be queen. That girl who took my husband will be queen someday." This insight into royal succession struck like lightning. How did Diana know what others missed? Her intuition about Camilla's ultimate ascension revealed deep understanding of palace dynamics. Love couldn't compete with tradition when tradition wore the face of an old flame. A Meal Uneaten. Sunday morning, August 31st, 1997, dawned peacefully at Kensington Palace. McGrady prepared Diana's typical light lunch. She'd return from Paris later, reuniting with William and Harry before their school return Monday. The menu reflected their developed understanding. Simple proteins, fresh vegetables, minimal fat. Diana's health journey meant every dish supported her well-being. McGrady took pride in crafting meals that nourished without compromising her hard-won relationship with food. The stuffed bell peppers were filled with all the goodies that she liked: zucchini, the mushrooms, and then some rice, just carbs, to help her through the day. This Sunday's preparation continued their established rhythm. Fresh ingredients sourced from Palace Gardens. Careful attention to presentation. Diana appreciated beautiful plating. Everything designed around her return from Paris, tired but happy for family time. McGrady finished preparations by early afternoon. The meal waited, ready for whenever Diana arrived. He felt satisfied knowing she'd enjoy her favorite dishes after the hectic Paris trip. 3 p.m. television interrupted the peaceful atmosphere. Breaking news flashed: Princess Diana in car crash. McGrady froze. Surely a mistake, poor journalism, sensationalized reporting. But the channels multiplied. BBC, ITN, CNN. The same devastating bulletin repeated endlessly. I thought it was a prank, but it was on every channel. Then I knew it was real. Reality settled like a suffocating weight. Paris tunnel, high-speed chase, paparazzi pursuit. Diana, 36, killed instantly. Dodi Fayed deceased. The driver, drunk. Bodyguard, critically injured but alive. The food McGrady prepared became history's poignant footnote. The last meal made for a princess who'd never return home. Everything sat exactly as placed. Stuffed peppers still warm, accompaniments perfectly arranged, smoked tomato sauce waiting to unite flavors, as Diana loved. I had her meal ready. It was just sitting there, untouched. The faxed death certificate arrived Monday morning. Reality couldn't be denied further. Staff at Kensington crumbled collectively. 20 years of service, countless meals, infinite conversations, all leading to this moment of finality. Diana's passing triggered unprecedented global mourning. Over 2.5 billion people watched her funeral worldwide. 60 million flowers transformed Kensington Palace gates into sea of grief. Elton John's Candle in the Wind became the unofficial anthem of loss. Palace sources reported Queen Elizabeth's decisive intervention. Camilla would not attend. The monarch understood public sentiment too well for such miscalculation. It's a good thing she listened. The world would never have forgiven her. Yet the absence wouldn't prevent Camilla from claiming her ultimate prize. Diana's prophecy began its fulfillment even as her coffin processed through London streets. The erasure begins. 8 years after Diana's death, on April 9, 2005, Charles married Camilla. McGrady, now running restaurants in America, couldn't watch. Distance offered no insulation from emotional impact. I didn't watch, I didn't go, I couldn't. My thoughts were with Diana the whole day. The ceremony felt like historical revision, legitimizing what had caused such destruction. McGrady understood monarchy's need for succession, yet couldn't reconcile personal loyalty with political necessity. They got what they wanted in the end, but the cost was enormous. Diana's prophecy materialized exactly as she'd feared in that Kensington kitchen. That girl became Duchess of Cornwall, then later, after systematic public rehabilitation, Queen Consort. Each step forward seemed to require Diana's memory stepping backward. Former palace colleagues began reporting disturbing changes. Camilla's arrival at Clarence House initiated what McGrady later termed systematic erasure. Diana's physical presence vanished first. Her pastel wall colors, gone, replaced by stronger hues. Her beloved English roses, removed for different arrangements. Every soft touch suggesting femininity disappeared systematically. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly, but to those who had known Diana, it was unmistakable. Staff loyal to Diana found themselves reassigned. Some chose resignation over serving Camilla. Diana's charitable priorities, once palace focus, shifted to Camilla's preferred organizations. The transformation reached beyond decoration into institutional memory. Kitchen practices Diana established faced immediate revision. McGrady's healthy menu innovations, carefully developed around Diana's recovery journey, gave way to traditional fare. Even the relaxed atmosphere Diana created fractured under formal protocol restoration. They used to be in the hallways, not just for staff, but for guests. Pictures of her with the boys, moments of joy, of humanity. Palace insiders described Camilla's visible discomfort encountering these images. No explicit orders followed, simply frowns, pauses, meaningful glances at staff. The message transmitted clearly without verbalization. Within months, photographs migrated from prominent corridors to less visible spaces. After 6 months, they reached private rooms. Within 3 years, even those disappeared completely. After about 3 years, that one vanished too. Each removal carried symbolic weight. Diana's friends found their access subtly restricted. Her charitable contacts received fewer invitations. People associated with her reign faced gradual marginalization. Former staff reported witnessing systematic discussions about updating decor whenever Diana references surfaced. Palace life under Camilla demanded forward momentum, leaving no space for backward glances. McGrady learned of these changes through carefully worded phone calls. And photograph moved during renovations. A charity event postponed indefinitely. Diana's favorite menu items removed from rotation, small erasures accumulating into comprehensive rewriting. The transition felt like careful choreography, not dramatic gestures but persistent pressure. Camilla didn't announce campaigns against Diana's memory. She simply created environments where that memory couldn't comfortably exist. Sources close to palace operations suggested design consultants received specific instructions about avoiding reminiscent elements. Colors Diana favored became discouraged. Furniture arrangements she preferred faced systematic alteration. Even flower selections evolved away from her documented preferences. But these weren't mere renovations. To many who knew Diana, they represented calculated erasure of her influence. The warmth she'd brought to institutional spaces faced systematic replacement with cooler formality. Breaking point years of silent observation reached culmination during May 2023's coronation. McGrady supported the ceremony publicly. Monarchy required continuity despite personal conflicts. Yet his coronation tweets triggered immediate backlash from Diana supporters. "How could you celebrate the woman who caused such pain?" responded multiple accounts. McGrady found himself accused of betraying Diana's memory, a charge cutting deeper than critics realized. This pressure combined with cumulative knowledge finally broke protective silence. McGrady's response shocked royal observers worldwide. "She is pure evil." 4 words, unqualified, unbending. McGrady delivered this verdict about the Queen Consort without hesitation. For a man known for diplomatic discretion, the language stunned observers. He elaborated carefully, explaining this wasn't hyperbole. The calculated removal of Diana's influence, from charitable works to staff relationships to actual photographs, revealed something darker than redecorating. That's the first thought that came to my mind when I learned everything that had been done to erase Diana from the very home she helped transform. Television appearances followed. McGrady, typically measured in public statements, spoke freely about palace dynamics previously protected by discretion. Each revelation peeled back layers of official narrative. Diana made the palace feel alive. There was warmth in the halls, kindness. Camilla's arrival extinguished that light entirely. Press conferences drew unprecedented attention. Journalists pressed for specifics about photograph removals. McGrady provided detailed accounts, timeframes, specific images, staff reactions, systematic patterns of erasure. How can someone be so threatened by a memory? It wasn't even a woman anymore, just photographs. Even those proved too much. The internet erupted. Diana supporters celebrated validation of decades-old suspicions. Critics questioned timing and appropriateness. Palace machinery remained characteristically silent. McGrady's assessment reached beyond personal opinion into moral judgment. He'd witnessed 2 royal figures intimately. Diana's authentic humanity versus Camilla's calculated environment management. She never lashed out. Diana was hurting but still kind. Even on worse days, she treated others with warmth. Palace officials maintained never complain, never explain doctrine. Yet privately, royal commentators acknowledged unprecedented challenges. Usually, servant testimonies lacked credibility, too distant from decision-making. McGrady's proximity to Diana granted unique authority. His revelations threatened carefully constructed narratives about Camilla's rehabilitation. Public relations strategies developed over decades faced demolition through first-hand accounts of memory erasure. I supported the coronation because institutions matter more than individuals. But moving forward doesn't require burying truth. The 4 words resonated beyond their literal meaning, representing accumulated frustration from all who felt Diana's treatment by official systems remained unjust. McGrady became inadvertent spokesman for unresolved grief. Echo of truth. McGrady's revelations triggered seismic shifts in public discourse about monarchy, memory, and justice. What began as controversial tweets evolved into sustained truth-telling campaign, with the former chef positioned as unlikely guardian of historical honesty. I owe her that. After everything she endured, the least I can do is protect her story. All of it, even the uncomfortable parts. Media outlets competed for exclusive interviews. Each session revealed additional layers of palace operations previously hidden from public view. McGrady maintained his central assertion. Camilla's actions constituted deliberate erasure of Diana's influence. Parliament experienced subtle tremors as questions emerged about monarchy's accountability mechanisms. Though no formal investigations followed, informal discussions acknowledged gaps between public perception and palace realities. McGrady rejected these characterizations. This isn't about psychology. This is about truth. Diana deserves honest memory, not sanitized history. His assessment of Camilla remained unwavering despite criticism. Palace sources attempted character assassination, suggesting McGrady harbored professional jealousy or sought financial gain. These attempts largely failed. McGrady's long silence and delayed disclosure enhanced credibility. Meanwhile, grassroots support grew exponentially. Diana charities received donation increases. Memorial events attracted renewed attendance. Public sentiment demonstrated enduring connection to the late princess, amplified by McGrady's revelations. Former royal staff began emerging from silence, emboldened by McGrady's example. Not all confirmed photograph removals or systematic erasure, but enough corroborated institutional changes post-Diana to suggest patterns McGrady described. Palace found itself in unprecedented position. Responding seemed to legitimize accusations. Silence suggested potential truth. The dilemma exposed modern monarchy's vulnerability to insider testimony. His 4-word assessment became shorthand for broader questions about power, memory, and institutional integrity. Scholars began examining parallels: how institutions manage problematic legacies, whether erasure serves stability, if truth-telling threatens necessary continuity. The controversy reignited debates about monarchy's contemporary relevance. McGrady inadvertently provided ammunition for Republicans while simultaneously affirming royalty's human complexity. His revelations complicated simplified narratives on all sides.
Prince Harry sharing painful and deeply personal details of the family rift that rocked the British royal family and the world.
I don't think that we can ever have peace with my family unless the truth is out there.
The unlikely standoff at Kensington Palace. A seemingly ordinary day at Kensington Palace turned into one of the most unforgettable moments in recent royal history. Prince Harry and Prince William, 2 of the most talked-about royals, found themselves at the center of an unexpected spectacle, one that was not caused by any royal scandal, but rather by a simple family visit. What started as a casual trip for Queen Camilla's daughter, Laura Parker Bowles, quickly escalated into a full-blown comedy of errors. At the gates of the palace, Laura found herself blocked by an unlikely figure, the royal family's longtime nanny, a woman known for her strict adherence to palace rules. For years, this nanny had been a staple in the royal household, a figure of authority who had kept the palace in check with unshakable resolve. But today, her no-nonsense approach would clash with the royal family's more modern views. As Laura was prevented from entering the palace, the situation quickly spiraled from confusing to hilarious. What could have been a routine family gathering became a battleground for royal protocol, tradition, and, most surprisingly, humor. Would the nanny relent? Would family ties be tested to the breaking point? And why was a seemingly simple visit causing such an uproar? The answers would come in the most unexpected ways, and the royal family would soon learn that even the strictest rules can be bent, sometimes for the sake of a good laugh. As the story unfolded, everyone began to realize that the nanny wasn't just protecting the palace, she was guarding an old and cherished tradition. But was it worth the chaos that followed? Little did anyone know, this moment at the gates would go down as one of the most absurd and hilarious royal dramas ever. What happens next is something even the royal family couldn't have predicted. The unexpected visitor Kensington Palace, an iconic symbol of British royalty, had seen countless royal visits over the years, but nothing quite like this. Laura Parker Bowles, daughter of Queen Camilla, had been invited by her stepbrother Prince William for a casual family visit. As she approached the gates, there was nothing unusual about the scene. The palace was as majestic as always, and Laura had visited many times before. But today, something was different. Today, she would meet a formidable force at the entrance. The royal nanny, a woman who had served the family for decades, stood at her usual post. She had always been an integral part of the palace's inner workings, managing everything from the royal children's schedules to overseeing the everyday operations of the household. Her reputation for strict adherence to the rules was well known, and she didn't hesitate for a second when Laura arrived. The gates were closed, and despite Laura's claim of being family, the nanny stood her ground. No entry without proper clearance, she declared. Laura was taken aback. She had never been stopped before, and yet today, she found herself in a confrontation she never expected. The nanny's behavior was puzzling. Why was she being so strict? Was there some deeper issue at play? And why now, of all times, was the nanny so adamant about following protocol to the letter? It seemed like a small misunderstanding, yet it quickly escalated into something much larger. Laura began to question whether her connection to the royal family, something she had always taken for granted, was truly as secure as she thought. As the standoff continued, tensions mounted, and a shocking revelation about the nanny's mysterious behavior started to emerge. Was this just a simple misunderstanding, or was there more to the story? Media frenzy begins. As the situation at the gates grew more absurd, word quickly spread throughout the palace, and within moments, the entire staff was buzzing with excitement and confusion. The news that Laura was being blocked by the nanny reached Prince William and Prince Harry, who, at first, thought it was a joke. But the more they heard about the situation, the more they realized it was real. The nanny, known for her unwavering loyalty and strict rule-following, was not about to let anyone through without the proper clearance. Not even Laura. The brothers, both well accustomed to dealing with the media and the scrutiny that came with being members of the royal family, found themselves in the middle of a spectacle that no one could have predicted. As the news began to spread, the palace gates turned into the epicenter of a media frenzy. Journalists and photographers, always eager to capture the smallest bit of royal drama, quickly gathered outside, hoping to get a glimpse of the unfolding standoff. The tabloids had already latched onto the story, spinning headlines about the royal gatekeeper and the palace blockade. What started as a family visit quickly became the talk of the town, with royal watchers and media outlets eager to analyze every move. Prince Harry, ever the jokester, found the whole thing rather amusing, but even he could see that the situation was getting out of hand. The media, as always, would turn any story into a circus, and this was no exception. But behind the comedy was a serious question. Why had the nanny gone to such lengths to stop Laura from entering the gates? With the media now involved, the situation was about to escalate beyond anyone's control. But the truth behind the nanny's actions was still hidden. What was her real motive? The hidden power of the nanny. The more the brothers delved into the situation, the more they realized that the nanny was no ordinary staff member. She wasn't just a caretaker or a supervisor. She was a guardian of royal tradition. Her role in the palace had grown over the years, and she had become as much a fixture of royal life as the crown itself. Known for her loyalty and commitment to maintaining order, She had earned the trust and respect of every member of the royal family. But there was something more, something deeper, that motivated her to act with such authority. As the standoff continued, Prince William began to investigate the situation more thoroughly. What he discovered was both fascinating and unsettling. The nanny's strict adherence to the rules was not just about protecting the family's privacy. It was about preserving a sense of order that she felt was slipping away. For years, the royal family had faced increasing scrutiny, and the nanny's role had evolved into one of safeguarding their legacy. But was this constant vigilance leading her to make decisions that went beyond her remit? Prince Harry, meanwhile, took a more light-hearted approach to the drama. While William was deeply entrenched in figuring out the motivations behind the nanny's actions, Harry couldn't help but joke about the situation. He commented that the nanny's gatekeeping skills were unmatched, likening her to a secret agent tasked with protecting the royal family from all threats, real or imagined. But as the hours wore on, even Harry had to acknowledge that something wasn't quite right. The nanny's behavior seemed more like a test of loyalty than a simple enforcement of rules. The deeper Prince William dug, the more he uncovered about the nanny's mysterious role in the palace. But was her dedication to tradition helping or hindering the royal family? The family confrontation. As the day continued and the standoff persisted, the royal family was left to grapple with the situation at hand. Queen Camilla, who had sent Laura to visit, was both perplexed and somewhat embarrassed. Her daughter was being blocked from entering her own family's palace, and for what? A failure to follow some obscure protocol? Camilla, though used to royal rules, found herself questioning the nanny's judgment. The situation soon reached a boiling point. After hours of negotiation, Prince William decided to intervene directly, and the palace doors were finally opened. But what happened next was truly unexpected. The nanny, who had steadfastly refused to allow Laura entry, finally relented, but only after a private conversation with William. No one knew what was said behind those closed doors, but when the gates were finally opened, there was an air of resolution. The family gathered inside the palace, the mood a mix of relief and tension. What had started as a simple visit had now become a defining moment for the royal family. Was the nanny's unyielding stance a sign of her deep loyalty to the monarchy, or had she overstepped her bounds? Prince Harry, who had spent most of the day joking about the situation, now saw the deeper implications. What happened behind the scenes between William and the nanny? And was the family truly united, or were cracks starting to show in their carefully constructed facade? The media spin. As the royal family's internal drama unfolded, the media was quick to seize on the story. The headlines were everywhere, each one more sensational than the last. Royal nanny blocks Camilla's daughter from entering palace, read one headline, while another claimed, family tensions at Kensington Palace as nanny refuses to let in royal member. The press, always eager to turn any royal incident into a spectacle, had turned what could have been a small misunderstanding into the latest royal scandal. But as the days passed, the story took on a life of its own. The press speculated endlessly about the motivations behind the nanny's actions. Was she simply following protocol, or was there something more personal at play? The tabloids, ever hungry for a juicy story, turned every possible detail into a headline, with little regard for the truth. The royal family was no longer in control of the narrative. The media had taken over, twisting the story into whatever served their agenda. The royal family, used to the media's attention, couldn't ignore the impact this story was having. The nanny, once a trusted and respected figure, was now being portrayed as a villain in the eyes of the public. And yet, behind the headlines, the family remained united, trying to protect their own from the relentless media machine. As the media circus continued, the royal family's reputation hung in the balance. What would happen next? Would the family survive this latest scandal, or would it tear them apart? The strain on family ties. Behind the closed doors of the palace, the royal family was left to reflect on the day's events. The standoff at the gates had been embarrassing for everyone involved, but it also exposed underlying tensions that had been simmering beneath the surface for years. For Queen Camilla, The incident was a reminder of the delicate balance she had to maintain between her new role within the royal family and her relationship with her children from her previous marriage. Her daughter, Laura, had always felt like an outsider in the royal fold, though she had been included in many family gatherings. This incident, however, brought her feelings of alienation to the forefront. Despite being the daughter of Queen Camilla, Laura had often been overshadowed by the more prominent figures in the family, especially her royal stepbrothers, Prince William and Prince Harry. The fact that she was blocked from entering the palace by a figure who had been a part of their lives for so long only emphasized her position as an outsider. For Prince William, this incident had forced him to confront the complexities of royal life and the pressures of tradition. He had always been a proponent of maintaining the royal family's legacy and order, but the nanny's rigid adherence to protocol had caused more harm than good. He found himself questioning whether tradition was worth the damage it had done to his family's relationships. How could he reconcile his duties to the monarchy with his personal feelings for his family? And more importantly, how could he manage to keep things from spiraling further out of control? Prince Harry, on the other hand, found himself caught between his brother's serious nature and his own irreverence. He understood that something deeper was going on, but he also knew that humor was his way of coping with the absurdity of the situation. Still, even he couldn't ignore the emotional toll it had taken on everyone. As much as he wanted to deflect and make jokes, he knew that his family's public image had been damaged, and it was unclear if they could ever fully recover from the fallout. The tension inside the palace was palpable, and the fallout from the standoff at the gates would linger far longer than anyone expected. Was this just the beginning of an unraveling of royal unity? Or would they find a way to put their differences aside? The nanny's secret. As the royal family dealt with the aftermath of the palace gate incident, a startling revelation came to light. It wasn't just a matter of rules being enforced. The nanny, it seemed, had been operating under a sense of duty far more personal than anyone had realized. For years, the nanny had been the family's most trusted member, one who not only cared for the royal children, but also served as a quiet protector of their image. Her strict nature and loyalty had earned her the respect of the family, but there was more to her than met the eye. She had become not just an enforcer of palace protocol, but a silent guardian of royal tradition. A tradition she believed was slipping through the cracks of modernity. The monarchy, as it had been traditionally known, was under increasing scrutiny, and the nanny had come to see herself as the last line of defense. She had taken it upon herself to uphold the legacy of the royal family, believing that the family's image must be preserved at all costs. Her actions at the gates of Kensington Palace, though seemingly harsh, were a reflection of her deep, perhaps misguided sense of loyalty to the crown. What she had failed to see was the emotional cost of her actions. Her duty to protect the royal family's image had blinded her to the needs of the very people she sought to protect. Prince William, for one, had seen the damage her actions had caused and felt torn between his loyalty to the family and his desire to protect his own family's well-being. The revelation about the nanny's motivations gave the family a new perspective on her role within the palace. She wasn't just a figure who followed orders. She was a person with her own complex emotions and an unwavering sense of duty. But the real question was, had her actions caused irreparable harm to the royal family's unity? As the truth about the nanny's motivations came to light, the royal family was faced with a difficult question. Could the damage caused by her strict adherence to tradition ever be undone? Or was the legacy of royal protocol too deep to be shaken? A family divided. The aftermath of the Palace Gate incident revealed fractures within the royal family that had long been ignored. Despite their public appearances of unity, the members of the royal family were often divided by hidden tensions. This event, though seemingly trivial, brought those tensions to the surface, forcing each family member to confront their own relationships with tradition, loyalty, and each other. Prince William, caught between his role as a future monarch and his desire to protect his family, found himself at a crossroads. He could no longer ignore the complexities of royal life. As much as he had dedicated himself to the monarchy, he began to question whether he had been sacrificing his personal happiness for the sake of duty. His relationship with his brother, Harry, had always been complicated, but now, even that bond was being tested. Harry's irreverence and humor, while often a source of light in difficult times, had become a point of contention. William was increasingly frustrated with Harry's reluctance to take things seriously. Yet, despite their differences, both brothers shared a common understanding. The royal family, as it stood, was fragile, and every action they took had the potential to alter its future. Queen Camilla, watching the drama unfold, found herself caught between her loyalty to her husband, King Charles, and her desire to protect her children. Laura, her daughter from her previous marriage, had always felt like an outsider in the royal fold. Camilla had done her best to make Laura feel included, but the tension that had existed between them for years was now more palpable than ever. The nanny's actions had made Laura's position in the family even more tenuous, and it seemed as though she would always be seen as an outsider, no matter how much she tried to fit in. In the end, it was clear that the royal family had been tested in ways they had never anticipated. The public spectacle, fueled by the media frenzy, had laid bare the fragile nature of their unity. Each family member had their own take on the situation, and while some were eager to move on, others couldn't forget the deep rift that had formed in the wake of the events. As the royal family continued to grapple with their differences, one question lingered. Could they ever truly heal the divisions that had been exposed? Or was the royal family destined to remain fractured forever? The royal media circus. The royal family's image, once carefully curated and protected, had now become a subject of relentless scrutiny. The media, always hungry for a story, had turned the gates of Kensington Palace into the epicenter of royal drama. As the situation unfolded, the press painted the nanny's actions as part of a larger narrative of royal dysfunction. Headlines blared about family infighting and royal dysfunction, with each report more sensational than the last. The nanny, once a beloved figure behind palace walls, was now being vilified in the public eye. The media, as always, had a unique ability to turn even the smallest incident into a full-blown scandal. This time, however, the royals were caught in a whirlwind of their own making. While the family had hoped to keep the situation private, the media's reach was too powerful. Photos of Laura standing at the gates with the nanny blocking her entry quickly went viral. The tabloids had a field day, offering wild speculation about the family's inner turmoil. As the press frenzy continued, the royal family was forced to navigate the increasingly difficult situation. Each statement, each public appearance, was carefully choreographed to try to minimize the damage. But no matter what they did, the media seemed to have the upper hand. The family's every move was scrutinized, and even their attempts to move past the incident only seemed to fuel the fire. The public perception of the royal family had been altered irrevocably. Once a symbol of stability and tradition, they were now seen as just another celebrity family caught in a scandal. And for the first time in years, the monarchy's future seemed uncertain. With the media spinning the situation out of control, the royal family was left to pick up the pieces. Would they be able to reclaim their image, or was this incident the beginning of a new chapter in their history? The resolution. In the end, the palace's internal drama had reached a breaking point. The nanny, who had once been a symbol of unwavering loyalty to the royal family, finally acknowledged the consequences of her actions. She realized that her strict adherence to tradition had caused unnecessary turmoil within the family, and the damage could not be undone by simply reopening the gates. For Prince William and Prince Harry, the incident had been a wake-up call. They had always known that being part of the royal family came with immense responsibility, but the events at the gates made them realize just how fragile that responsibility truly was. The monarchy's future, as they both knew, was built on public perception and unity. If the royal family couldn't navigate their personal differences and protect each other from the media's prying eyes, their legacy would be at risk. As the royal family gathered to discuss the events that had transpired, it was clear that they had to come together, not just for the sake of the monarchy, but for the sake of each other. Despite the chaos that had unfolded, they found a way to heal the rifts and rebuild their bond. The nanny, having seen the damage she had caused, apologized for her actions, and the family agreed to move forward, learning from the experience. The incident at Kensington Palace, though hilarious and chaotic, had brought the royal family closer together. It had exposed the cracks in their carefully constructed image, but it also allowed them to rebuild it stronger than before. The monarchy, like any family, was imperfect, but it was also resilient, and it was clear that they would continue to endure. After the storm had passed, the royal family found strength in their unity. But would the public ever forget the day the gates of Kensington Palace became the scene of a royal standoff? Only time would tell. The aftermath: a family reconciled? The gates of Kensington Palace, once a symbol of security and grandeur, had now become a symbol of dysfunction. The royal family's public image had taken a hit, and the press continued to run wild with speculation. But behind the closed doors of the palace, the family was beginning to pick up the pieces. The media's attention had only intensified the pressure, and with each new headline, the royal family was forced to confront the reality of what had happened. Queen Camilla, who had initially been embarrassed by the media frenzy, took it upon herself to bring her family back together. She knew that the royal family's unity was the key to maintaining their standing in the eyes of the public. The nanny, once a figure of unquestioned authority, was now the subject of widespread scrutiny. But she wasn't the only one to blame. Camilla herself had been forced to reckon with her own role in the drama. The incident had exposed the deep-rooted tensions within the family, tensions that had long been hidden beneath the polished surface of their public appearances. For Laura, the visit had become more than just a family gathering. It had become a reflection of the complicated nature of her relationship with her step-family. Though she had always been accepted as family, this incident made her feel more like an outsider than ever before. She had always struggled with her position in the royal family, and the events at the gates only highlighted her insecurities. For Prince William, the entire situation had been a wake-up call. He had always prided himself on his ability to maintain the royal family's reputation, but he was beginning to realize that the weight of that responsibility might be more than he could bear. The nanny's actions, though driven by her loyalty to the monarchy, had exposed a gap between what the royal family needed and what the public expected. William, who had always followed tradition, found himself questioning whether those traditions were truly serving his family, or if they were holding them back from evolving. Prince Harry, as always, had found humor in the chaos. But even he couldn't ignore the emotional toll the situation had taken on everyone. The brothers, though vastly different in their approach to life, had been forced to confront the fact that their family wasn't as invulnerable as they had once thought. The gates of Kensington Palace, once a symbol of royal strength, had now become a battleground for competing values. With the media breathing down their necks and tensions running high within the palace, the royal family had to decide whether to embrace the future or hold on to the past. Would they ever be able to reconcile their differences, or had the damage been done? The royal rebuilding. The royal family, now fully aware of the damage done by the gate incident, began the painstaking process of rebuilding their image and their relationships. Prince William, determined to regain control of the situation, called a family meeting. The purpose was clear: to resolve the lingering tension and to ensure that their future as a family, both in public and private, was secure. Prince Harry, ever the optimist, offered a lighter perspective. While William focused on the logistics of repairing their public image, Harry insisted that they needed to find a way to laugh at the situation. The absurdity of a nanny blocking Laura at the gates had, in Harry's mind, become something of a legend, a story they would all tell with laughter in the years to come. But despite the humor, it was clear that the wounds from the incident ran deep. The family knew they couldn't simply laugh it off. They had to address the emotional toll it had taken on them individually and as a unit. Laura, who had spent so many years feeling like an outsider, was particularly affected by the standoff. The nanny's actions had reinforced her position as someone who wasn't fully embraced by the royal fold. Despite the family's efforts to make her feel included, she had always struggled to truly find her place. The events at the gates only made that feeling more pronounced. Queen Camilla, who had been dealing with her own feelings of guilt and frustration, was determined to make things right. She reached out to Laura, speaking to her openly about the complexities of their relationship and the misunderstandings that had been a part of their dynamic for years. Camilla acknowledged that her daughter's feelings of isolation were valid, and she promised to do more to make her feel like an integral part of the royal family. At the same time, the royal family knew that they had to regain the public's trust. The media had torn into them from every angle, and it was clear that their carefully constructed image of perfection was no longer viable. In the age of social media, where every misstep was scrutinized, the royal family's every move would be under constant observation. It was no longer enough to rely on tradition alone. They needed to adapt to the changing times and rebuild their reputation from the ground up. As the royal family worked through their emotional baggage and began the process of rebuilding their public image, a new challenge arose. How could they navigate a world that no longer believed in royal infallibility? Well, that was a royal mess, wasn't it? From a strict nanny to a media frenzy, this bizarre moment at Kensington Palace has shaken things up in ways no one saw coming. What's next for the royal family? Will they learn from their mistakes or continue to clash with tradition? Drop your thoughts in the comments and make sure to hit like and subscribe for more shocking royal moments. You won't want to miss what happens next.